bada boom, bada bang, bada bop. We are back today with some training insights. I'm going to share 5 things I learned from my recent half marathon PR. I ran a 1:12:43 yesterday at the very hilly Charlotte Half Marathon. It was a great race and a great time. And today, I'm going to share with you what I learned, and hopefully it can be helpful to your training. Now, if you are interested in training, if you are interested in running, getting after it, or maybe running shoes like the Puma Fast R3 here, you are in the right place. But an even better place would be the app, the Supwell app. So Supwell app is my app. It's the best buy, sell, and trade marketplace for running shoes out there, and here's how it works. Somebody gets a shoe like this, the Puma Fast R3, which, by the way, I actually did get this on the Supwell app. But somebody might get a shoe like this, they put a run in it or 2 runs in it, it doesn't work for them, so they list it well below MSRP, pass along a deal to a hobby jogger like you. We also have a great group of people getting after it daily, and we have our community challenge kicking off Monday, tomorrow, or today for the time you're watching this. So the goal is to walk or run every day now through the next 4 weeks to get through the holiday season. Stay on that grind, not fall off, and be consistent through Thanksgiving and through Christmas. So if you're looking to save money on running shoes, or you're looking for a group of people to help you be accountable, motivated, and grinding, get in with us and enjoy today's video. The leaves are falling again. Perfect weather. I have the PR weather shirt on, but I think it's actually oh no, it's coming. I think it's actually slightly warmer than PR weather, and yeah, everybody in my house is sick again. Last night, Charlie, her eyes were not swollen shut, but just super puffy. She's super stuffed up, sneezing everywhere, so of course I'm gonna get sick again, man. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. But this is the thing. If you have a family, kids are going to school, or if you have a life, if you have any sort of social life, you will be exposed to people who are sick, and then you get sick. So it's just one of the things of being a hobby jogger. You can't self-contain yourself or contain yourself in a bubble all the time. I'm not going to be walking around with a mask on like it's 2020 being scared of some sicknesses. But this is the thing. Last night, I was watching a movie. Have you seen the movie Eddington? It's really good. We watched about the first 45 minutes to an hour. It has Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix. And Joaquin Phoenix is the mayor or the sheriff of the town, and Pedro Pascal is the mayor. It's a political satire, really dry humor. It's funny. It's funny. Anyway, today, I'm not talking about COVID, or maybe I will, but I'm not talking about movie reviews either. We're talking 5 things I learned from my half marathon PR. Can we throw it up here? Half marathon PR, 1:12:43. I have it on got the medal engraving yesterday. That was nice. Can you see that? Yeah, look at that. 1:12:43 official. It was nice to get the laser engraved medal and everything. Laser engraved. Look at that. And because I signed up with the team as Supwell, they got Supwell on the medal too. They have my bib number, they have the race and the date and everything. Pretty cool. So 1:12:43.6, 72 minutes. And the Strava clocked me, and my watch clocked me at 1:11:50, I think. And of course you go with the official time, that's the official PR, but it's cool to see what the watch tells you, because that would convert to exactly what you've done in training. And the thing is, with the half marathon or marathon, most of these courses are precisely marked and measured, and they're all going to be certified by USATF, so USA Track and Field, so that if somebody's trying to OTQ or win some sort of a record or award, they're all certified with the exact distance. But with a race like this, half marathon, you naturally, with all the turns and everything, will run slightly more mileage. Unless you are an expert at cutting all the tangents, not cutting the course and trying to cut off distance, no, but just taking turns at perfect angles can get you more of an exact distance. On 5Ks, you could end up with a little bit less, but most of these half marathons or marathons, you'll likely end up with slightly more, which is good because then you get the official time. The worst is finishing a marathon with something like 25.9 miles and then Strava won't clock it as the actual PR. And the thing is, you get your official race time. So you go to the Charlotte Half Marathon website and you look at the official race time. But in reality, everyone goes to Strava and you look at your PRs on Strava. So Strava is almost like the official record keeper for hobby jogger PRs. Hopefully, the Supwell app will become the official record keeper for hobby jogger PRs. We got the splits rolling in on the new app and everything. We're testing it. It should be in production within the next few months. No promises on rollout date, but next few months with the new Supwell app, with the run tracking and everything, is going to be a movie and a banger. But 5 things I learned from my half marathon PR. So I like putting together these lists in learnings as a way to reflect on everything I've done, share some things that in my journey have either helped or hurt. It's also a nice way to think about where I am now in my training versus previously versus where I want to be. And one of the things I was saying yesterday in the car, reflecting on the race, is sometimes it's so sweet to savor the taste of now and just enjoy where we are. And when we get a good PR, that's a great time to do it, man. If you're coming off a bad race, you don't want to savor the taste of now. The taste of now is going to taste like basura, trash. It's going to taste like the Big Sean song, the popular song I was talking about the other day. That's what the taste of now is if you have a terrible race. When you have a good race, man, think about how sweet it is to be in the moment and also the work we did to get here. So 5 things I learned. Let me fire up this list here. Got a note. Yeah, okay. Number 1. First thing. Some days you just have it. Man, this was the number 1 thing I learned coming off this race. Some days you just have it. It's a feeling. It's a vibe. It's a swagger. It's the je ne sais quoi. And if you've raced good races and if you've raced bad races, even good days out in training and bad days out in training, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some days you just have it, man. I came out of the gates here, and we can throw up these splits. I came out of the gates here just rolling. I didn't feel like I was pressing hard or anything, and the first mile was downhill. It's a fast mile, but I banged a 5, I think it was a 5:15. It was something in the 5 teens. Just rolling. Heart rate was in check. Everything was in check. The temperature was perfect, and I just felt so relaxed, focused, and confident. Some days you just have it, and when you have it, it feels great, and it's nice to just ride the wave. On the other side of the coin, do I even need to say what the opposite is? Some days you don't have it, but it's true. It's true. We can say all these things about, oh, you got to put yourself in a positive headspace. You can grind it out, DQ mentality, which is true. We should always give it our best effort. But the inverse is also true, man. Some days it's really hard out there. For some reason, you've run dozens of 5:30 miles during training, and then all of a sudden on race day, it could feel super hard. Or you have a cramp, or you have back pain, or your calf feels weird. But when the days are there, when you have it, when everything starts clicking, it's such a good feeling. And the other thing with it is, for me, when I'm in the best headspace in these days where I have it, it's like stuff just flows off. I could have things pop up. For example, my AirPod yesterday, my left AirPod all of a sudden, do I have it here? Yeah, my left AirPod, it all of a sudden just stopped working in the morning. It wasn't working at all. I've had these AirPods for 2 months. I also had a previous pair for 2 years. I barely had any issues with them. I don't think I had any issues. I had no idea what was going on. Just stopped working. Little things like that. Super tired when I woke up. I felt horrible when I woke up in the morning yesterday. Morning.
Morning.
Leading into the race, my back felt kind of weird. Just these things pop up, right? But when you have it, on those days you have it, things just flow off. And that was the mentality and headspace I was in yesterday. Everything was just rolling off like Pete the Cat. And I don't know, you can say there's certain things you can do to put yourself in that headspace, but I think there is I always say there's no luck in running, but there is, I don't know if it's luck or just preparation that puts you there, but there are some days that are certainly better than others, and it's hard to find that formula. However, there are things we can do to prepare to put ourselves there. Solid training, man. I was so well trained for a half marathon through all the mileage, all the long runs, and then just the past week doing a good session a few days out. So I wasn't super nervous or anything for this race. So that was learning number one, man. Some days you just have it. Lesson number two, learning number two, you need to live life. So this was something for this race because, man, with this channel being I don't know if I would call myself a public figure, but I have a public profile on Instagram and on YouTube here. I hear all sorts of things about my diet, about how I should train. And I've said this before, I definitely give too much credence to those things. I listen, I read all the comments because I like seeing what people are saying. And I also like answering people's questions about shoes or training, anything. But it is a growth area for me not to put so much stock into what a bunch of random clowns who've never accomplished anything in their life are saying about me, regardless. It's not just me. Even if you don't have a YouTube channel or an Instagram, there's so much advice, guidance, tips out there about the perfect taper, the perfect workout, the perfect mileage level, what to do and not to do, hacks to get faster, why you should quit doing these top 5 things, why you should eat a certain way. If it's keto is the trend, or eating kidney is the trend, or vegan or gluten-free, whatever it is, man. And I do eat vegan, and that seems to really bother people. The thing is, I've never said once I think you should eat vegan. I really don't care how you eat. Well, I do care in the sense that if you're following along this channel, I hope you're living a healthful lifestyle. And that was one of my goals of even starting this channel and starting Supple in general, is to encourage people to up their best and to live in a healthful way. But I've never said I think vegan is the best way to eat. Matter of fact, I've said the opposite. I don't think it's the perfect diet. I don't think it's the best way to eat for everyone. However, it's the way that works for me. It allows me to have a healthy BMI. It allows me to have tons of energy to do everything that I need to do in life. Run 100 miles a week, work a full-time job, parent my children, be a very loving husband, and then perform at a high level, right? And I rarely get injured or sick. So I got COVID a few months ago. There was a thing about that as well. At this work event, everyone that was there got super sick. And I don't know if it was COVID or not for me personally, but a lot of people who were there tested positive for COVID. So 2 + 2 = 4. Regardless, the way that I eat personally works for me. You got to do what works for you. There's people online want to push all sorts of stuff, and it's really hard to cut out the noise. And even if you're not super online, you just see things. Your colleagues might do things a certain way, or people in your run group might do things a certain way. That's why it's so important that everyone finds what works for them. And this is what I mean when I say vibes, training by vibes. For the running in particular, it's the feel. And I've been leaning into the Hudson system more. Hudson comes from the Daniels. He has some Canova influence, and his system is all about adaptive running. That's a fancy way of saying vibes. Training every day by listening to your body and figuring out what the optimal run is or not run is if you need to take time off, right? So that's what the vibes is, and it's the same thing for nutrition. It's the same thing for race day. It's the same thing for figuring out what works for you. I had pizza and ice cream the night before the race. It was very delicious, by the way. It was mushroom truffle oil vegan pizza because we went to Mason's school event and it was at a pizzeria. And would I have had that if we weren't going to the school event? Probably not. But you need to live life. You need to live life. I wasn't just going to be the weird dad at this thing, just starving myself. No, so I had pizza, and then we went out for ice cream after because I wanted to take my kids out for ice cream, and I had delicious pumpkin cheesecake vegan ice cream. So you need to do what works for you. You need to live life. There's so much noise out there, and it's really hard to cut through the noise. But I have found what works for me. I'm not trying to push it on anybody else, but what I do try to push on people is figuring it out for yourself, reading books, getting different perspectives, listening to what I share on this channel, trying some things and seeing if they work for you. But there's a whole lot of noise out there, and I'm in a position where it does come in to me from the outside. But even if, again, you don't have a YouTube channel, there's just a lot of different things to sort through, and it can be hard. Nutrition, training, just how to live your life, man. It's coming at it from all angles. You got to find what works for you, and you got to find a way to enjoy life. So that was number 2, man. You need to live life. All right, number 3. Hold on, I want to take a water break here. I actually have a oh no! I had this out here. It fell. Dropped a 112 in the basketball jersey, man. Putting up basketball numbers, 112. Yeah, I switched up the electrolytes. I was doing the Relight lemon lime, and then I was doing the Relight strawberry lemonade. I'm on the wild berry right now. Super good, super good. I also have the watermelon lime, but I haven't cracked those open yet. All right, number 3. Repetition builds comfort. Repetition builds comfort. So this wasn't necessarily a new learning, but I haven't raced a half marathon in a while. I haven't raced a half marathon in 2 years. Since I did my last half marathon, I've done Coast Guard marathon, I've done Chicago marathon, I've done the 50K I did last year, I've done the 5K I did recently, and I've done the Bay State marathon, and then a bunch of time trials and I think a few other trail events in there. Yeah, a bunch of trail races. So I've probably done 7 to 10 races over the course of 2 years since the last time I did a half marathon. But repetition builds comfort. So I talk a lot about mileage, right? We put it on the back of the jersey here because mileage is the best thing that 95% of people can do to get faster. If you look at my race day video yesterday, making sure all the cords are plugged in. Charlie told me I needed a checklist. I'm not a checklist type of guy, but I think she's right because when I was in the car yesterday, I think I knocked out the cord halfway. And this is the funny thing, because my left AirPod was dead, I was editing with just my right AirPod. So I didn't realize for the entirety of the breakdown, the left side was out. So it was kind of this poetic injustice there with the left AirPod dead and the left side of the audio out. So I apologize. I'm trying to get my checklist better. But if you look at my race day video from yesterday, before I jogged back to the Jeep after the race, when I left the family, I passed the finish line, and this was probably an hour and a half or an hour after I'd finished. So these were folks finishing at 2.5 to 3 hours, around 2.5 hours for the half marathon. And 95% of people out there running the half marathon, and especially if you're in that time range, can improve their race times and general aerobic fitness through mileage. This is why I talk so much about mileage. And now I'm at this stage of my running journey where it's not just mileage, but for 95% of people out there, increasing the volume will work wonders. It's likely if you're finishing a marathon, and most of the people I'm talking about out there, when I say 2.5 hours to 3 who can increase through mileage, I'm not talking about somebody who's in their 70s. I'm talking about who's someone in 20s, 30s, 40s, goes to the gym in decent shape. If it's taking you 2 to 3 hours to finish a half marathon, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Easy gains, not easy, but simple gains to be made by increasing from 3-4 runs a week, running 20 to 30 minutes, to increasing 5-6 days a week, running 45 minutes to 90 minutes. But that's only if you want to. That's only what your goal is. Point being, repetition builds comfort. The repetition of mileage builds comfort with mileage. Running 5 to 6 days a week will make a 10K, will start to make an hour-long run feel a lot smoother. And the same thing applies with paces. So I was thinking about, 5:20 per mile pace to 5:40. So going into this race, my target was 5:35 per mile or 5:36 per mile or faster, because my PR, just according to Strava, my fastest time I'd ever covered 13.1 miles was 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 36 seconds. So my goal for this race was just to beat that. Should have been pretty simple since I went 14 miles at that pace. It was a pretty soft PR. It was during training. So that's another reason why I wasn't all that nervous. The goal that I had going into the race was very within reach. Just beat my tempo run PR by 1 second. The hills were a variable out there. But throughout this year, I was realizing, 5:20 per mile to 540 per mile. I have run so many miles at that pace. I've probably run, I don't know, it's hard to estimate, but hundreds, at least multiple dozens of miles between 540 or 520 to 540. And if we go 520 to 550, definitely hundreds of miles, especially if we extend it back into last year. So I have just hit so much volume at this specific pace. So I was so comfortable. I felt so comfortable for the entirety of this race because repetition, that's what mileage is, putting in the miles at these paces, man. You got to run race pace. You got to run race pace. And I'm big on, like Hudson, like Daniels, running race pace for the entirety of a cycle. Some people think you peak too early if you run race pace earlier on the block. I don't think that's the case. And based on my personal experience, that has not been the case for me. Repetition builds comfort. And how many threshold workouts have I done this year at a 522 pace or a 529 pace or a 530 pace? Man, dozens of threshold workouts. So showing up on race day with the goal of banging 535 for 13 miles, even over the hills, I felt very comfortable with that. So takeaway here, man, no matter what your race goal is, the repetition of putting in the volume at that pace is huge. And I say this nearly every single time I do a training talk. How's the wind today? We getting a last fall video? Yeah, the leaves are coming down beautifully and everything. I think we're really ending out fall. We're ending out fall. Oh, which reminds me, the fall stuff, hat, shirt, it's all gonna be coming down this week. We're flipping over to winter very soon. I'm super excited about the winter collection, but the fall collection was also some of my favorites. And what I want to do with winter this time is go piece by piece on all the inspiration and the design choices we made and the creative process with me and Barrett, because I didn't do that for fall, but the fall collection was awesome. This is one of my favorite pieces. So if you're looking to pick something up and have not, now's your chance. It's going to be going away. Most of this stuff is seasonal and will not come back. Like this PR weather thing likely won't come back in the nice pumpkin cheesecake orange. This hat likely will not come back. We may have, my plan at some point within the next few months though, not winter, but I may be bringing some of the classic stuff back for a permanent collection, because this is the thing, people come into the community and they're post on the app trying to scalp white hobby jogger hats because they want one. And so why don't I just have them available all the time? That's my thought. Anyway, repetition builds comfort. I say this every single time that I do a training talk. Putting in the miles at a specific pace is going to make you a lot more comfortable at that pace, whether it's a 5K, a 10K, 10 miler, half marathon, full marathon. And if your goal is just to finish, it's even more important, man. Those easy or simple gains, the low-hanging fruit. If your goal is to finish a half marathon, man, the repetition of just getting out there and stacking the mileage is the best thing that you can do, and you'll find yourself finishing runs stronger the more miles you put in. And I was actually able to put down a 5:15 because I was running so comfortably and within myself. I was able to put down a 5:15 on the last mile, man. Moving. All right, number 4, data. So I talk about mileage, vibes, pace. I think people sometimes have a misunderstanding or misconstrue what that means, especially on the mileage. People think I'm out here just randomly running high mileage, trying to run myself into the ground, stack as many miles as humanly possible. No, I'm stacking as many miles as I can without getting fired, divorced, and injured, and running quality sessions. If you look at even my highest mileage weeks of the year, 130 and 140 mile weeks, I was putting down big tempos in really solid sessions. There's this misconception for some reason that I just run slow miles. Every coach, every person who comes up with a running philosophy, they have misconceptions. For example, the Hudson system, people think he just does a lot of hill sprints. The Daniel system, people just know him for doing sick and demented workouts, which is mostly true. That is true, and that's why I love the Daniel system. With me, people think I just run a lot of 10-minute miles and I don't do any workouts. People who don't actually follow along. I don't know why that's the case, because I don't think you could find one week this year where I haven't done a workout. I do workouts every week. Yes, I do long runs every week. And yes, I also prioritize relaxed mileage. And it just goes to show that doing that, keeping the base fitness high, allows you to almost always be in good shape for something like a half marathon. This is what I said on Friday, that I really do think the half marathon is the best test of true endurance, because 5Ks and 10Ks, there's more speed involved, and especially as you get faster to your paces being in the low 6s and the 5s, you got to do real speed work to be able to be in peak 5K or 10K shape. You got to be doing some aggressive sessions. And then with the marathon, you've got to be doing 20-mile long runs, 22-mile long runs, especially as you get down to the 3-hour range and faster to be in marathon shape. But with half marathon shape, if you're doing 15-mile long runs, 60-mile long, if you're doing the basics of everything I talk about that makes somebody a solid endurance runner, 2 hours long run, 1 2-hour long run per week, right? Running 5 to 6 days per week. And this isn't just me. I didn't invent this. This comes from the Iearneds, the Hansons, the Daniels. They all say the same stuff, right? But the 2-hour long run per week, 5 to 6 days per week, and then 1 hard run per week. And you don't need to go to the track and do 400s at LT2 with a lactometer. No, 1 hard run per week. The last workout I did before this half marathon, I said I'm gonna run a hard hilly tempo. And it's so funny, somebody actually commented that I should buy a lactometer on a Chinese website and train like the Norwegians. You don't need to do all that. You really don't. 1 hard run per week, the 2-hour session, and then 5 to 6 days per week of running, ideally 6 days per running. And this is if you want to get faster, not if you just want to run for fitness and enjoyment. You can run once a week for all I care if you're doing it for fitness and enjoyment. You can run once a month for all I care if you're doing it for fitness and enjoyment. But if you're doing those 3 basic things, the 2-hour long run, 6 days per week, in 1 hard run where you're getting the heart rate up, you will always be in half marathon shape, man. You will always be in position to take a good chunk off the time or to give it a solid effort, because man, I didn't do anything special for this race. I signed up for it a few weeks ago. I've just kept the base fitness up high, and that's the whole thing with the mileage and the MVP system. The base fitness is always going to be high. You should always be in a position to PR on something like the half marathon if you're just stacking the mileage and staying in shape. So that's the whole thing with the system. But what I did want to say, MVP, mileage, vibes, pace, the whole thing with the vibes that gets misconstrued is, so mileage, people think I'm just out here randomly running in circles at 10-minute pace around my neighborhood. Vibes, people think I'm going to run 12 miles today. No, I always have a plan for what I'm doing. I always have a goal, and I always have a plan for the next week, and I always have an idea of the next big session I want to do. And vibes, what it also means is adapting, like I was saying, very similar to the idea of the adaptive running system, Brad Hudson, but adapting based on how we feel. One input to that, and one thing we can use to become smarter at interpreting our own bodies and how we feel, is the data. And so learning number 4 here was data can be useful, because I've been training with this guy, the heart rate monitor, and I have actually found it super useful to have a really good sense of, okay, I'm at a 7:30 pace, I feel good, where is my heart rate? And with the repetition builds comfort. Another thing that built a lot of comfort into me in that race was knowing I could look down at my watch, see the heart rate, which in prior races I didn't love doing on prior training blocks, but looking down at the watch and seeing my heart rate 168, 170, meanwhile I'm ripping at a 5:30 or 5:25 pace, that was incredible. That gave me a lot of confidence and comfort too. So the data can be useful if we are using it as an input to improve our training. I also find that if we obsess over it, and especially if we're not in a good place, if the data is telling us something we don't want to hear, then it can't be good, because mentally you'll always have negative and positive inputs, and it's our job to look at them and see. For example, Strava will tell you a faster predicted race time than your Garmin or Coros, or vice versa, right? So one of them will be necessarily more positive or negative than the other. And regardless of how much stock you put into those things, it gets into your brain. It's human nature. You can decide which one of those you want to believe. Maybe your coach is telling you can run a faster or slower time than you think you can. Maybe your last workout wasn't as good or was better than a workout a few weeks ago. It's our job to sift through that information and to make an informed decision about how to pace a race. But the data can be really useful if we use it in a smart way, and especially on the hills. This is, I'm talking so long, I maxed out the thing, but this is why it was the most useful for me. Being on the hills and having a good sense of the appropriate pace I should run was big, because even though I train out here, I haven't run a half marathon in 2 years, and I wasn't sure how I'd be doing on the hills. So having the heart rate as a way to tell me, okay, maybe my watch says I'm at a 5:50 pace, which is a lot slower than I should be, or maybe my body feels like I'm working super hard on these hills. Am I working too hard? Let me look down at the watch and get a good another piece of data, right? So it's balancing how I feel with the watch, and it was really good because most of the time I wasn't working too hard, and I actually ran very much within myself, and the heart rate data did help. It did help. It helped me a lot run within myself, because I could see, okay, I'm at 175, I'm gonna keep it there, I'm gonna hold. And that was my rough plan for the race. I didn't want to get too close to 180 for too much of it. I didn't really want to go deep in the tank for this race. And this is the thing, there's certain races and certain training blocks where we can bury ourselves, certain workouts where we want to bury ourselves, or we can bury ourselves and go deep in the tank. I personally find that I race the best when I don't bury myself, and when I have cushion, when I have more fitness to give. And with this race, I ran 100% within myself for 95% of it, and then on the last mile, so I guess 93% of it, and then on the last mile, I was able to give it the gas and go all out. But that was because I was pacing the race in a smart way. So it's another tool to help us pace and to be informed about what we're doing. Now, I'm not saying everyone should race with the heart rate monitor, and matter of fact, I don't know if I'm going to do it again, but I had just been doing it in my training a lot. Also, this wasn't of course I wanted to PR, but this wasn't a race that I was working for years, and this was a major goal A race. I likely would not be using this in a major goal A race, or at least looking down at it so much. I would try to go more by feel, but because I didn't train specifically for the half marathon, I didn't know exactly what my target half marathon pace would be. This was super helpful, and having a good way to gauge effort on the hills with this is super helpful as well. Power is another way to do it, and I'm actually going to be checking out the Coros pod soon to get some power metrics. Now, on the data front, another thing I wanted to add was it can be useful, but something like this, it only really matters when we're at our best, which brings me to number 5. Pain is exponential. That was my learning from yesterday, man. My 5th learning. Pain is exponential. Now, this was not, like I was saying, this was not a painful race. I'm not saying it was easy at all. It was definitely not an easy race or anything. It was a very strong PR attempt, and I was pushing myself. But I wasn't in the pain cave at any point. I didn't feel like I was going to quit at any point. I didn't, thankfully, have any sorts of bad cramps or really deep muscle pain or anything. It was a half marathon. Pain is exponential because, man, the difference between a half marathon versus a marathon is not linear. It's not double. The marathon is not twice as hard as the half marathon, man. It's exponential. The thing I was thinking about yesterday, getting to mile 8 in a half marathon, you have 5 miles left. When you're in a marathon and you have 5 miles left, you've already banked 21 miles. You've run nearly 3 times as many miles to get to the point where you have 5 miles left versus in the half marathon. This is what I'm saying. It's not exponential. It's not linear. It's exponential, man. It's so much harder to run the full marathon. I was so glad I ran the half yesterday. It's awesome. Running the half marathon at an event where there's a full marathon, it's such a good feeling. You get to peel off halfway through and just be done. And running with other guys, and I would look down at their bibs. So the full marathon had purple bibs. The half marathon, we had orange bibs. And just looking at the guys with the purple bibs, I would see one of them pass me, or I'd pass one of them, or we were all running together. It's just, oh man, I feel so glad I'm not running the full today. This is awesome, man. I get to be done halfway through. I'm be eating a donut by the time this guy's on only mile 19 or something. So yeah, the pain is exponential, man. The half is such a great distance. I think it's my favorite distance, and I know I focus a lot on the marathon, and I'm probably thought of primarily as a marathoner, and I think of myself primarily as a marathoner, but the half marathon was my first love, and that was the first distance that I truly, I think, found a connection with, in where I unlocked something beyond just running for fitness. I would do these half marathon time trials. And this is why I've never been obsessed with racing. Everyone is obsessed with, oh, you need to race more to be a real runner. It's these European senior citizens who are saying this. But yeah, I would do these half marathon time trials by myself, 2019, 2020, when there were no races, or I guess 2020, 2021. I would just go out there, run a hard 13. I'd work up to it for a few weeks, test myself, see what I could do. So I absolutely love the half marathon, man. And one of my goals a few years ago was to get sub 70. That was my lifetime goal for the half marathon when I first got into racing in 2022. So I'm close, man, because I got a 72, 71 on a really tough course with the hills and everything. So yeah, pain is exponential. And this is the thing with the data that I was gonna say. The data, the gear like this, the shoes, I have my shoes out here and everything. Man, ooh, dropped the singlet again, or the jersey. But the heart rate tracking doesn't matter when you're hitting the wall and in the pain cave and your glycogen depleted. The type of singlet or shirt you have on doesn't matter when you're getting to mile 18 and you feel like you can't move your legs. Doesn't matter if you have the Puma Fast R3 on or the Brooks Glycerin 22 if you're in the full marathon and you're hitting the wall. Or conversely, even if you're in the half marathon, right? There were some guys I was running with, I checked Strava's afterwards, who were in this pack, who had some tough miles there, mile 11, mile 12, because the hills were really challenging. If you're running 30, 40 seconds slower than goal race pace, it doesn't matter what type of shoe you have on your feet. So the data, the jerseys or the singlets, a $300 singlet, wearing a sore singlet versus a shirt from the thrift store, none of that matters if you're having a tough time out there. It only matters when we're at our best, and it only matters if we're executing really well and at the pinpoint performance. So with the shoes here, man, yesterday I felt like this was the perfect shoe because I was really getting up on the forefoot and the midfoot here. I was letting it fly and getting down to 520s and 5 teens, running strong. That's where this is at its best. And I do think this helped me hit that time. I don't know if any other shoe would have given me as much speed assistance as this. I could have PR'd in any other shoe, but being at my best and getting to mile 13 and dropping a 5:15, this shoe definitely helped for that. But if you think back to Bay State, man, there was no shoe that could have saved me from my fatigue that day and just crumbling. It didn't matter what I had on my foot. Looking at the heart rate wouldn't have mattered. It didn't matter what shirt I had on, right? It's so funny. I remember last year, somebody said I would have run a faster marathon in Chicago if I were wearing a singlet versus a t-shirt, but the t-shirt said supple on it, so I wanted to wear it. And those are the things that can help, right? If you're wearing a hobby jogger hat and it gets you excited and people are yelling hobby jogger out there on the course to you, those are the things that can improve a race. But if you're in the pain cave in a full marathon, just digging deep for everything, not really able to move the legs, doesn't matter what shoes you have on your feet, doesn't matter what kind of heart rate monitor or watch you have, it doesn't matter what kind of jersey or singlet you have on. And this thing was a banger, man. This thing was an absolute banger out there. Yeah, no chafing. I don't know. I think different people have chafing issues. I've never been a big chafer. But the material on this, I've said it a few times, but the material on this is not bad. It's almost like a singlet itself. But yeah, this was a vibe too. This definitely gave me a 30-second or something boost out there on the course. So that is all I have for you today. 5 learnings, takeaways from my 1:12:43 half marathon PR. Mileage train is rolling, baby. I actually got 100 miles today on the week because I did a 11-mile recovery run this morning in the Pablos, the all-white Pablos. So we're still moving, we're still grooving, and this is what I'm saying, man. You keep the base high, you keep the mustard on the dog, you keep stacking mileage, the recovery is better. Again, people want to come for the mileage. The recovery is better. I'm out here dropping an 11-miler at a 7:30 pace the day after a big half marathon PR on the hills. And once you run a mileage level for 2 years, it's not high mileage anymore. That's what I was going to say about the whole people misconstruing high mileage. Yeah, I run a lot of miles compared to the median runner, but compared to myself historically, I'm on pace for another 5,000 mile a year. That's not high mileage anymore, doing it 2 years straight. That's just routine. It sounds jerky to say that, and I try to find a way that doesn't sound jerky, but that's just the reality. It's moderate mileage when I'm at 100 to 110. Once I start going above, that's where I can really get additional aerobic adaptations like I was getting this summer when I was at 130 and 140. Anyway, mileage train is rolling. I appreciate you. I do want to say thank you to everyone out there supporting, because I know there's a lot of talk, or I talk a lot about the low mileage boys doing this, Barefoot Mafia doing that, smacking down people, etc. But I appreciate the people who believe and support, like my guy Berto. And my guy Jeff Watson. Right? There's so many people out there. There's too many people to name. I know Jeff Watson ran the Savannah Southern Half, but people who believe in me, there's a lot of people who believed in me this summer before, or when I wasn't even believing in myself, when I was having low self-esteem, some low mileage issues myself, right? So I talk a lot about low mileage boys getting smacked down, but I appreciate everyone for the positivity and the support. I generally try to keep it positive, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard. I'm not perfect. I do let the comments get to me and everything, but we all have growth areas, right? We all have things to work on. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who's been supporting it. I appreciate everyone who's getting after it. I appreciate everyone on the Supple app. DQ Community Challenge starts tomorrow, which is today, likely by the time you are watching this. Starts on Monday. So if you need a new way or some motivation to get through the holidays, dude, I can't talk. I'm so hungry. I didn't eat anything after my run this morning, and it's 11 right now, so I gotta eat. But yeah, DQ Challenge starts tomorrow. The Didn't Quit Challenge. Goal is to run or walk every day for the next 4 weeks to get through the holiday season. It's not about stacking as many miles as possible unless that's your personal goal. It's about staying on the mileage train and firing and killing the low mileage individual inside yourself and killing those demons, man, and staying on that grind through the cold, through the ice, man, all through the holiday season. Let them know. Nobody's falling off this year, man. All right, I appreciate you. That is all I have for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. It's the best buy, sell, and trade running place for market. It's the best buy, sell, and trade. You hear that? It's the low mileage boys today saying nada. They're saying nada.